Hello, everyone. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I am so grateful that you're here. Welcome to the Daily Medicine Transmission for the 23rd of March, 2022. So I have done a number of takes. I'm really hoping that this is actually going to be the final one. And the moon in Sag has, it is so expansive within what I'm feeling and how I want to express it to you that it's been very difficult to get myself grounded, really, and to be able to offer this transmission in a way that's actually not just me rambling at you for 20 or 30 minutes, because there is a lot happening, as we can all probably see in our own lives. I'm going to share a couple instances, make some astrological connections about some events that are unfolding, but we've kind of blasted out just like this bubble nebula. So this is from the astronomy picture of the day. It's very easily accessible to find it. And a bubble nebula, well, nebula, first of all, is this beautiful image that we see through the telescopes that is a collection of space dust and gas, and oftentimes will be areas of a stellar nursery, so where stars are born, because you have all of this space dust and very simple pieces of matter, right, that are floating around, and they start to aggregate and they start to create heat and density and gravity, right? And eventually, once all of this kind of starts accreting to a central point, and then a star is born. And then what happens is that it reaches a density and a mass and a pressure at its core that is so powerful that it actually stimulates nuclear fusion. So the hydrogen atoms, right, they come together and release energy as they become helium, right? And so this is called the main sequence of a star. So this star in this bubble nebula is an O-class star, and it's the hottest, it's the most luminous, it has the most mass in the way that we categorize stars in astrophysics and stellar physics, right? Or star physics. So the radiation and the magnetic winds and its own solar weather is so intense because of the amount of energy that it's outputting as this massive blue star. It is bubbling out and is creating this bubble that we see in front of us, which is an energy that's just pushing all of that space dust and gas into this bubble form as a result of the intensity. So it kind of feels like that just happened in some way, that there was a bubble nebula created by some sort of solar force within all of us, within our own sun, perhaps, and in the unified consciousness that is invariably and inevitably making its transition towards, a new cycle. We have come to the end of this 24 to 26,000 year cycle, and it's time for another trip around our own axis. But that's for another conversation. The bubble nebula, it just seems so perfect for what's been going on and how people may be feeling. So I want to share with you as well just a couple pictures, some things that I notice, the things that I track on a regular basis. One thing I would love to bring up is, if you haven't seen it already, this flyer for a new reading sale. It's called How Can It Bloom? That's like a fern that is coming into its newness, that image. And it's a seasonal forecast for you based on your natal chart, your starseed markings, and your progress chart from the March equinox up to the June solstice. And we have this upcoming new moon on the 1st of April that is conjunct Chiron in Aries. This is when the astrological new year really kicks off. And so, yes, we've had the equinox point. We've come to that balance of light and dark, regardless of what hemisphere you find yourself in. It is a still point. And now we are starting to experience the separation or the bifurcation or the journey along that seasonal path, wherever it's leading us, collectively and individually. So this forecast is to give an idea about the months ahead. Especially, there's just a lot happening already. We're in the middle of an eclipse cycle that will end, and a new one will begin in conjunction again with the Pleiades. So this is part of this process and will really hold that same frequency, but opposite when we start this next eclipse season, which is going to be in May, right? So this is the ending of the last one that was in November, total solar eclipse in December over the path of totality over Antarctica. I've talked about this. There's a lot of stuff on Telegram that I've shared about this particular eclipse, the degree of the eclipse, and its path over Antarctica, and what is going on down there, how it's related to our journey as not only the United States as a country, but just the free world and where humanity's going and what's going on, connected Antarctica, technology, Atlantis, all of those things. So again, these are things we get to talk about with each other in real time at the Starseed Fellowship. So there is a lot during this time between now and June that if you want to get an idea of how it's going to impact your life, the areas that it's going to impact, the connections on a archetypal and pattern level for you in your soul's blueprint, this is a great opportunity to do that. So I just wanted to throw it out there. You can go to the website. It's linked in the description box below. You'll be able to book right from that first home page, as well as get on the email list. So we looked at the bubble nebula. Now there's a couple things I really do want to share about. Mars was square Uranus yesterday, like exactly. And let me make sure I have the right thing up. So the first thing I want to share, and I put this on Telegram in a much more concise post so you can check it out, but the first thing I want to share is, boy, oh boy, there have been a lot of earthquakes in Taiwan in the last day, like a lot. And I'm curious to see what Ben on Suspicious Observers has to say about it. I haven't listened to his report yet. So let's look at this, because this is for today. So the last 2.5 days, this is what this list would be. And I have it set to the largest magnitude. So 6.7 in Taiwan, that was last night. And then a 6.7 on the North Mid-Atlantic Range, which is over here in very close to La Palma and the Canary Islands, right? So remember when La Palma was a big deal a couple months ago because it was getting active, okay? These are large magnitude earthquakes. One of them is not very deep at all. The one near La Palma, not very deep. The one near Taiwan, a little bit deeper, but still pretty shallow in terms of earthquakes. So, but then if you look and just start scrolling down, which is what I'm going to do right here, Taiwan, these are all in order of largest magnitude over the last 2.5 days. Indonesia, Taiwan, another South Mid-Atlantic Range. So this is a little bit further down between South America and the continent of Africa. So Philippines, Taiwan, Japan, Taiwan. I bet you these are only 23 kilometers deep. This is 15. So what is going on in Taiwan? Taiwan, Japan. So there is a pretty strong sense here that a lot of this is, Mars square Uranus for sure. Not surprising at all that there would be an incredible amount of tectonic activity that would challenge the ability for the human collective and everything that we have built as part of our civilization to be, would be impacted or challenged in some way. A Mars square Uranus is not an easy place to be. But the other thing that I want to show you that you may have seen is, let's see here. I'm going to show this to you real quick. And I know I put this on Telegram as well. So if I can find it, where did you go? I want to be able to play it for you. Stand by. Okay. I'm ready now. So that's the great thing about being able to pause these things. So I'm going to show you now. Like I said, I already posted in this Telegram. People have already seen it. We've kind of talked about it. But just in case, I'm going to show this. This is a tornado that touched down in New Orleans last night. And as you can see, it's got this double funnel thing going on as well. So that is also like, whoa, Mars square Uranus. Absolutely. So let me exit out of this here real quick and bring up the chart, because that's what we're here to really talk about. But that is something else, I'll tell you what. So, and it doesn't, it doesn't seem very natural to me what's going on, but, it's, let me see here. I want to get this queued up. There we go. So whenever it is, all assets are deployed, and a sense of battle, right, with this square with Uranus, and a sense of not being able to predict what's going to happen, or this somehow making the best use of the element of surprise, right, in terms of a battle. So that could also be there as well. But it's a very dynamic time. And with Moon in Sagittarius, we are feeling strong. We're feeling, a sense of meaning and value, like our beliefs, and our internal beliefs are really strengthening our emotional stability as well. And there's a lot of optimism in Sagittarius, and a lot of big picture optimism, and a sense of cohesion at the social level with Sagittarius. Now you're talking about big picture, optimism, larger than life. And with the moon in Sag, it's so much of where we can draw our inner strength from is from each other and what the meaning of what we're doing is. So either way, regardless of what meaning you are operating under, there is a sense of drawing power from this place, if there's any power to be drawn from here. And I think when the moon came through Scorpio and met that south node yesterday and the day before, definitely yesterday, we had this review and to see like what has actually been generated, what we've done before, and taking the time to review it. And I think that gave us a really clear idea of where we wanted to actually establish our own emotional relationship with some pattern of meaning, right? Sagittarius. So it's very symbolic. You're taking abstract concepts and communicating them through action or through a sense of mythology or story. That's also a very strong Sagittarius and ninth house type of energy. So there's a lot of hope and there's a lot of optimism and there's a lot of strength to be gathered from, our relationships to each other and the power that is generated in those relationships. So let's take a look at what the moon is doing throughout the day and get an idea of how to make the best of what is going on. But also keep in mind that Mars square to Uranus is still very much active. As you can see right here, this red line as of this morning, this is midnight Eastern Standard Time. So last night on the west coast of the U.S. as well. It's still pretty bold, isn't it? So this is still very much relevant because they're still in the same degree as the whole degree as of last night. So just keep in mind, too, that has not fully dissipated yet. And in fact, coming on the other end of it represents a whole different experience as opposed to the buildup, right? It's more of the chaos of the experience and what transpires after it. So let's start here at our very beginning. And there are a couple main transits that aren't moon related that I think are really important to pull into today. Not the least of which is that Mercury in Pisces is going to conjunct Neptune and then come into that relationship with the moon's nodes. So there's a trine to the south node in Scorpio and a sextile to the north node in Taurus. But, talk about inspiration and a real sense to at least conceptualize and to communicate and to utilize information and the airwaves in some ways to fulfill our potential and to be very realistic about what that is and to acknowledge our limitations, to realize the situation that we're in, and to live a fulfilled life because we've centralized our focus as an individual within the experience of the collective. And so, of course, with Neptune, it's the fog, right? It's the fog of war. It's the fog of life. It is the fog of propaganda and the mystical, right? And nothing is as it seems in Pisces because it can be anything and it is everything. It's with Mercury here that there is this inspired, idea or a sense of really transcendent connection through something like meditation, through some sort of, claircognizance, right? Of just I just know, and it's inspired. It's spiritually inspired. Wow, you can really feel all of the things shifting, and Mars square Uranus was a big part of it. Even if it was utilized as a way to try to control for a situation that ultimately can be controlled. That's the thing about Uranus. Like, it doesn't matter how much you try to expect the unexpected. It wouldn't be the unexpected if you expected it. So that's that's the this lesson of Uranus, in my opinion. And Mars, as great as Mars is in terms of acting on our own self-interest, it's almost futile when it bumps up against Uranus. So especially in a very material-oriented sign. So this moon in Sag, though, is having us really just feeling so inspired and strong, emotionally strong, intuitively strong, like we're backed up. So the moon is, let's move forward a couple hours here, because the first real transit we're going to deal with this morning, I would say, is the trine to Chiron. And maybe if it would like to move forward, there we go. Okay, so you can see kind of like this interesting parallel angles between the nodes and Mercury, and then the moon, and that's interesting, Venus and Mars down to Lilith. Oh my, yeah, we'll talk about that too. That is a whole different thing that I think is really, really cool with Venus and Lilith and where they are today. And let's see here, where are we? Yeah, so the moon comes into this trine with Chiron. Where's Chiron? Let's go back an hour or so we can see this aspect line in its fullness. There it is, the moon trine to Chiron. So we're getting very close, my friends, to the degree of that solar eclipse where the path of totality was over Antarctica, right? That was in December, 13 degrees Sagittarius, 12 to 13 degrees Sagittarius. So we're getting pretty close in the trine to Chiron, just leading up to it. And so this really encourages us to bring our most noblest ideals into some sort of action, right? To actually express them or to step forward in some way. And this is a trine with Aries, which is talking about the idealistic sense of cosmic order within us as the individual. Aries is the individual ego consciousness that holds the entire process of creation within the self, right? Within our DNA, within our soul, within our material experience, the spark of life that Aries represents, all of the potential of what we can be. It resides within the individual. And the Chiron aspect has been such a challenge to really bring us back around to something that we all say that we know, but as a collective is still we're not quite there yet, which is that we are in fact creators of our own reality. And so when old stories and traumas trigger us back into old wounds and old stories of who we should be or who people think we are, then it's very difficult to access this. So this moment here is like, when we can emotionally feel into not only the ideals of just ourselves, but of the social order and our belief system, whatever that is, how we understand what we're all here doing together. This was a really right here is early this morning, or I would say early this morning on the West Coast. You have 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time as well with this becoming exact. It's very it's like bringing the noblest ideals of the society through you emotionally, intuitively is going to be, it's like a seamless connection, right? It's like the spark from the coal fire that has been burning down and has actually gotten hot enough to truly transmute can easily start the next fire, right? And that next fire can burn away these old stories. This is a great trine. I mean, you can really feel the optimism kind of building right now, even though there's like this stuff going on that is unexpected. But remember, we learn to expect it with that February new moon, because it's the same exact degree that Mars is in a square to Uranus. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So Beyond that, let's see here, Moon trine Chiron, and then it comes into, speaking of Uranus, that's perfect because it comes into a quincunx right after that. So you can see it here. It's faint in terms of compared to everything else, but it is here, and this is very much the exact degree not only of that solar eclipse, but the ascendant of the United States natal chart. And this is where the path of totality of that eclipse was over Antarctica. So this is an adjustment that needs to be made within us. And I think this adjustment is already happening. I think it's almost seamless. This is kind of, in terms of what I'm feeling, this has got to be one of the most smooth adjustments of a quincunx that I have felt in a really, especially with Uranus involved, because it feels like the upset has already kind of happened, right? And it's just a matter of, shifting ourselves internally to be like, oh, okay, this actually is part of, the past being brought to light that needs to be acknowledged and purified out of our system before we can move forward, right? That's the idea, the karmic actions coming to light that have to be seen and purged out in order to have a new pure creation. It's now, this very well could have something to do with resources in terms of currency, the type of currency, what's happening with currency and our money. That, Uranus and Taurus really brings itself back to crypto and digital currency as well. But also, too, just innovation, the idea that making change, considering, or freedom as well, like really free and revolutionizing, too, with Uranus, right? It breaks free. It's self-renewal that Uranus stimulates or triggers. So that's the other thing as well. It's that this renewal or this breaking free of an old money system or the baggage that has to go along with holding all of these resources, whatever it is, it's directly linked to this solar eclipse, and it's something we'll feel, right? It's something that we'll each have the opportunity to feel into. And so we just need to adjust, I think, and, if we can, adjust ourselves just a little bit. Remember, Sagittarius is mutable fire. There's malleability and flexibility here in terms of what we do with it, because it's the coal fire that's really the essence of it. So we could build it back up. We could start another fire somewhere, but this is about the purification, this particular degree. At a karmic level, at a starseed Atlantean level, I would even argue, clearly, when it comes to Antarctica and whatever's going on down there, even if it's about the magnetic excursion and how it will force rising of land, which is something that Edgar Cayce talked about when it came to Atlantis. So all of these things are related to Uranus and Taurus having very rapid impact and change on the material world as well. So the other thing about the moon where you find it is that you're also tapping into things that are not necessarily in the physical either. So, your own internal and subconscious things, patterns, and I would argue the subconscious patterns of the United States in its formation, considering the position of this. So that's really interesting to me. I'm curious to see how that unfolds. I think it's going to be more of an internalized experience and recognition, or something below the surface that's not real obvious. Not as obvious as what Uranus is right now, okay? And Mars squaring Uranus, that's way, way more obvious. So, right after this, it's just like bam, 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 all kind of hovered around this degree. And so then the moon comes into a sextile, with Mars, the next hour, basically, as you can see here, is 13 to 14. So 13 to 14 degrees Sagittarius is the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx. Again, this is something that Edgar Cayce talked about. This is something that I'm sure many people have come to in different ways. And the mystery school tradition being the Atlantean not technology, but the spiritual technology that is part of the Hall of Records or the Akashic Records that are under the Sphinx, right? Literal, metaphorical, doesn't matter. All of these concepts are abstractions of energetic patterns. So however it makes sense to you. The idea here, though, is that the moon in this position in a sextile to Mars now, this is about fast tracking our own evolution and putting our energy from a deeper wisdom, from teachings that are much older than we think our society even is, or our access to a deeper set of religious or even mystical and spiritual principles of understanding that if we can tap into it, again, energetically or intuitively, I should say, with the moon, like getting into the intuitive and the feels, this has the opportunity to actually give us, again, the energy and the fire to expedite our own collective growth and evolution. So that's pretty awesome too, especially when you start talking about the mystery schools and the adepts and the right-hand path, the left-hand path, the Freemasons, the Illuminati, or the Egyptian mystery schools, all of that stuff, and what that really means, what their agendas are, and why is it a secret? I mean, again, these are all really big, broad topics. The idea here is that there's something about this that can stimulate and actually activate our action at a societal level towards our goal to, like I said, it's to expedite this process, not in a way that's going to be us not working. We absolutely have to be working. In fact, it's about, tapping into all of the resources of human society and our technology, our civilization, and our tools and our ingenuity to actually bypass what would otherwise take forever. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it's good or it's bad. It's just the experience of feeling into those practices, the occult practices, or the natural adept, and applying that to some sort of quantum leap or upgrade of society through our own actions. So how you feel about that is something to consider. These are just the transits that are here and have a potential to impact us. So I think these are great conversations to be having, like, on the regular, and this is why I started Starseed Ministry and have the Starseed Fellowship, because there are aspects about all of this that really need to be discussed in a place where people can feel safe and heard and can really question things as well. So wow, there's so much potential today. And then Mercury is in a conjunction with Pisces. Talk about spiritually and transcendent, like inspiration or imaginative, creativity in this way. Maybe there's more expression. Maybe there's just an aha moment of like, oh, this is what we're all here to do, and this is my role in it. And you might feel compelled to express yourself about it. Perhaps you will just come to awareness or claircognizance about it, right? Or even clairvoyance, right? Mercury really, though, works with the cognition and the mind, and so it could be through meditation. It could be through prayer, honestly. That the fog of war has at least some sort, we can kind of see through it or use our instincts or intuition or just our mind's eye to be able to see through what otherwise is very nebulous and very hard to see with Neptune and Pisces like this. So let's see how that unfolds. Mercury is going to come into a trine with the South Node and the sextile to the North Node, right from that, just where Neptune did, right, not that long ago. And so now, whereas that may have been pure feeling at a soul and karmic level, now it's something that's way more accessible to our mind, to our expression, to our cognition and our processing and our imagination. It's much more on the surface of our imagination that's accessible by our own mind and consciousness. And again, it's about, command of one's own energy in a natural setting, and to gather the energy and power one needs by being just in communion through your senses to the world around you. This is, again, very Pleiadian. And so another opportunity to activate and harmonize with these two aspects here of just knowing what you're here to do at a soul level, at a cosmic or transcendent level, like really being able to see it in your mind's eye and even express it. And that works to propel us even more towards our soul's evolution. Again, this is about the Pleiadian revival still, is very much active right now, and there's a lot of Orion starseed nature that is getting brought out in these late Pisces transits. And that's something that we can, I think I would like to go over in a different format, just not to take up too much time with this daily. But that's also the case as well. So let's see, while that's happening, the moon is going to come into a sextile later in the day into the evening with Venus in Aquarius. Now, at the same time that this is happening, as you can see, the moon is in opposition to Black Moon Lilith, all at this 16 to 17 degrees. So, the rebirth feeling here at 17 degrees of Sagittarius, a communal experience together of rebirth. It's like going to an Easter sunrise service together. Like we're all, emotionally being drawn to this experience, and in opposition to Black Moon Lilith, which is something even deeper than our own subconscious or our own feelings, something that connects us to our original human blueprint here, and is a deeper expression of self-preservation, of primal connection, and of, sovereignty in her own way of the divine feminine. This is a sense of mental maturity here and a metamorphosis of our mind. It's about maturity, right? It's about going from much more of this sense-oriented experience into a much more maturely thinking individual. And it seems this opposition seems interesting right now. So let's consider its relationship to Venus in Aquarius. Now, this particular degree of 17 degrees Aquarius is about the need to protect yourself from astral intrusion. It's about the watchdog that is guarding all of the value of this idealized human or social collective, right? There's a sense that the individual, once they are in that type of connection and aware of it and acting on it in some ways, there is the possibility of being impacted through that connection, astral intrusion, black magic. Venus is here as she is allowing us in our own embodiment right now to exercise this, to feel the need for this type of protection of our valued assets, which is our society, our human capital, what we can be together. And when we're all together, like say, social media influence or any kind of digital connection of electromagnetic frequencies, perhaps, or being impact in those, through wavelength, for instance, infiltration, that is also part of it. And Venus is now stepping forward in kind of like this, it's very protective, and the protective element is through our own field, right? Now, this is trine to Lilith. There is something very deeply feminine, this protective feminine aspect, something that is almost requiring us to be much more mastered and mature about our mental state. With Mercury conjunct Neptune, boy, we could easily get pulled into into the fog itself and be completely unaware that that's even happening and just in la la land about things. And so Lilith here is like, there is a deep need, something so deep embedded in us to right now that wants us to like grow up in our ability to manage our minds, right? And imagine and manage and metamorphose. To experience a metamorphosis, to go from that robust youth to something that is way more mature in our cognition and in our mind. And that is absolutely stably connecting to Venus in this air trine right now, to watch ourselves, to guard ourselves and each other through our own capacity to manage our mental space, right? And what thoughts get in, how we express ourselves, and to not be so open. Now, the thing that's going to challenge us now that we see this is the moon in Sag wants us all to like find this like, rebirth experience together. It's really where we're drawing strength from. And so this sextile to Venus, I think, is very interesting at the very same time. That is an opportunity here that we can invest this rebirth energy that we are feeling into a shield, into some sort of actual energetic shield, right? And it does seem like that this is potentially going to lead us to being kind of like pulled back into somebody else's belief system or some other pattern of meaning in order to stimulate this energy. And I would say that it's way more in the feminine right now, and this very deep connection to the planet, to humanity, to life, and to our society that is giving us, all the tools that we need and the sensitivity to actually safeguard ourselves and to put up a field around us. And I think that if we are at least realistic, or if we know what we are being drawn into in terms of this rebirth experience, then I think that in itself could add to the shield, right? This is kind of like this shield at a social or relationship level. This is by the end of today, so I'm curious to see how this unfolds as we go through the day. This is very interesting to me. So when we actually, speaking of which, let's look at tomorrow, because the moon's going to move through the rest of Sag. It's going to cross the galactic center, moving into tomorrow. That means it's going to start squaring all Jupiter and Neptune and Mercury. And so this is where our own sense of strength in our meaning and our beliefs and in our doctrines and our religions and our philosophies, whatever it is for you, this is where it's going to be challenged with all of the Pisces, which is the full experience of unity consciousness in our own soul, right? And so we'll see, right? It'll bring out some kind of, it won't be nearly as agitating, to be perfectly honest, because Sagittarius and Pisces are mutable signs. So we do have these squares, though, that are happening tomorrow, and the moon will cross the galactic center. This is starseed activations for Orion, for Arcturus, and for Andromeda. So we'll talk about that tomorrow as well. And then it's going to come into Capricorn, and this is where our third quarter moon's going to be. So coming into Friday is going to be, we'll have plenty to cover in the Catalyst Astrology Report for Friday. So that's the daily for the 23rd of March 2022. So I'm going to leave it there, my friends. Thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. Like I said, if you're interested in a reading, energy work to support your process, if you want to take advantage of the seasonal forecast sale right now, so it's $66 for a 60-minute, $99 for a 90-minute recorded reading. And if you are familiar with my work at all, then you know that it's going to be like these dailies, just jam-packed with information and tons of transmitted and channeled information that is meant to activate you through the course of me sharing it. So you can go to my website. Everything you need is in the description box below, of course. And I'll see you tomorrow for the daily. Have a great day, guys. Take very good care of yourselves. And I'm excited to be here with you. Thank you so much for everything that you do as a starseed, as a light worker, and as a human being on this journey. Love you guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.